Today, we're diving into a powerful parable about a character you might know a lot better than you think, because in a way, it's a character that can live inside all of us. We're exploring the anti-hero within, from prison to purpose. So let's just jump right in with a question that really gets to the heart of all this. What if the very thing you use to protect yourself, your greatest shield, is actually the very thing that's caging you in? It all starts with what our source material calls the uncanny mirror. This is that moment of recognition, when you start to see that the antihero isn't just some character in a story, but an archetype that can live right inside of us. So what is this internal antihero? Well, think of it like psychological armor. It's this distorted reflection we have of ourselves, a defense mechanism we build, piece by piece, to shield our ego from the sharp sting of failure. It feels safe for sure, but as we're about to see, that safety comes at a really, really high cost. And that psychological armor, it doesn't just stay a small shield, it builds up layer by layer until it becomes what the source describes as the fortress of blame. And this isn't a real place, obviously. It's a mental prison we build for ourselves. And the crazy part is, it can feel incredibly comfortable in there. What's so fascinating about this fortress is that it's built on a story. It's a self-soothing narrative we tell ourselves, one where we are the misunderstood hero and the world is just unfairly stacked against us. It's a story that calms our fears, and honestly, it justifies our inaction. And what are the bricks and mortar of this fortress? Well, there are things like bitterness and blame. It's that habit of pointing fingers at society, at our circumstances, at anything really, to avoid looking in the mirror. And this stuff leads to nihilism, even mocking other people who are actually trying to succeed, all just to keep the walls of our fortress nice and strong. And this right here illustrates the central trade-off perfectly. On one hand, you've got the comfort of victimhood. It gives you this temporary relief because, hey, if it's not your fault, you don't have to fix it, right? But on the other side, you have the weight of agency, the power to actually act and grow, but also the heavy burden of being accountable for your own life. The anti-hero always chooses comfort over power. And here is the ultimate and kind of sad consequence of all this. When we live inside that fortress, when we trade our agency for comfort, we stop being the protagonist. We literally become a side character in the only story that truly matters, our own. But here's the thing, no fortress can stand forever. Eventually, cracks start to appear in the wall. And this is the real turning point. That moment when our carefully constructed defenses finally start to fail us. And what do these cracks look like in real life? Well, they often show up as feelings we're taught to see as weaknesses, psychological distress, depression, that deep existential dread. But our source asks us to reframe these. They aren't signs of failure. They are vital signal flares, telling us that the prison just can't hold us anymore. This distress is absolutely not something to be ashamed of. It's a call to arms. It's your own spirit demanding a rebellion, signaling that it's finally time to break out of that comfortable prison you've built. It's a call to adventure, really. And that rebellion? It starts with a moment of what you might call radical honesty, and it's captured perfectly in this quote. It's the sudden realization that the fortress was never a sanctuary at all. It was always a limitation, a barrier that has to be torn down, piece by piece, to find out who you truly are underneath all that armor. Okay, so this leads us to what is probably the hardest, but also the most rewarding part of the entire journey, the alchemy of struggle. This is where we learn how to transmute or transform our suffering into something deeply meaningful. So this path of transformation isn't some vague idea. It involves clear, actionable steps. It starts with just acknowledging the prison exists. Then, embracing that radical honesty, you need to start dismantling its walls. This is how you shed that old, heavy armor and finally, discard the crutch of blame for good. This whole process, it's true alchemy. It's taking the poison of directionless suffering, all that bitterness and blame, and transforming it into the gold of purposeful struggle. The pain doesn't just vanish. It gets a new meaning. It becomes the fuel for your growth. So what happens when you finally emerge from the fortress? Well, you become the author. You stop being a character just reacting to a pre-written plot, and you start writing your own story. Let's just look at this final comparison because it's so stark. The antihero is a victim, right? A side character defined by what happens to them. But the author,
That's a whole different game. The author is a force of nature. They are the protagonist who seizes the power to define their own meaning, no matter what the circumstances are. And this brings us to a final, really powerful insight. The future isn't pre-written. It's a blank page. And only those who are brave enough to face their own internal antihero are the ones who get to pick up the pen and write it. Ultimately, the story is yours to create. So the only question that's left is, what will you write on your blank page?